There was a great article in the February 4th, 2021 issue of Boxing News magazine about Josh Warrington, talking about his mindset and his disappointment with not obtaining the career-defining fight in 2020 that should have happened, but because of COVID, it never did. And because it didn't happen, his career and mindset now seems to be a where do I go from here mode. He's 30 years old, and in the lower weight classes, that is considered on the verge of being old. I realize it's all relative, but Warrington is on the physical side. He's relatively fresh. I don't recall him being in any brutal wars, and the article seemed to suggest that Warrington was already contemplating retirement, and it showed in his hesitant performance against the upstart Mauricio Lara. Lara came into this fight as a fighter that just was as nondescript can be. He's fought nobodies in Mexico, and going into this fight, he had a record of 21 wins against 2 losses, 14 knockouts against, against horrible opposition. So this was expected to be a one-sided, get rid of the ring rust fight for Warrington, but instead it turned out to be a disaster. The difference in hunger between these two fighters was apparent from the opening bell, as Lara came in winging, and he literally uncorked one haymaker left hook after another. Warrington did fight back. He shook Lara on a few occasions with his own left hook, but the young Mexican was undaunted. He was getting more and more confident as the fight wore on. He floored Warrington in the 4th round, and ultimately scored a brutal knockout in the 9th. Warrington was on his back, and the referee didn't even bother to count. So this is one of the biggest upsets in a long while. The fight was pretty exciting while it lasted. What was interesting was the analysts on the zone were from the United Kingdom, and they were clearly biased in Warrington's favor, and they were excusing his defeat because of Warrington's 15-month hiatus from the sport because of COVID. But I disagree. What really was the problem here was Warrington's inability to get out of the way of a very telegraphed left hook. All of his weaknesses were laid to bear here. Warrington never developed world-class defensive technique. His defense was his offense. He would throw, tons of punches per round. And here he came into the ring very psychologically flat. And he allowed his opponent to dictate the pace. He seemed to lack the ring savvy to adapt to Lara's punches, and Lara made no attempt to disguise what he was doing. He was just throwing a left hook to the body and head over and over again. Couldn't miss. So a bleak future awaits for Warrington because of the way he lost. There obviously is no more clamor for bouts against Zhu Can or Emmanuel Navarrete. Navarrete would have beaten Warrington with the same methods Lara used here, only the end result would have happened much quicker and the fight would have been a lot more one-sided. Given Warrington's mindset that was revealed in the Boxing News article, I think there's a possibility that he will retire. If he does come back, it would be against domestic opposition, and I don't see him challenging the world's best again. As far as Lara goes, he's crude, but it'll be interesting to see how his career progresses. He has to shore up his defense, get some more technical skills, but the desire and hunger is there in this 22-year-old. And that's the narrative difference in this fight. Mauricio Lara was desperate to prove himself, and Warrington was, he's light years more talented, more experienced, but he probably spent a little too much time navel gazing over the past year and came into this fight mentally flat. Lara, on the other hand, had 4 fights in 2020. He's fighting for pennies and crumbs on the Mexican scene, and that was the difference. He wanted it more in what may remain the upset of the year.